Welcome back, everyone, of our Prospect Profiles here on Madden 19 in the Dolphins franchise, where we look at players who the Dolphins could end up drafting and become really good players. Today, we're going to be looking at offensive and defensive linemen, mainly focusing on the first round because I expect the Dolphins to take a lineman in the first round, starting with Ole Miss tackle Greg Little. I could absolutely see the Dolphins taking this kid, even if they get a top 5 pick. He is a phenomenal pass blocker, which is exactly what the Dolphins have need. Laramie Tunsil has been the left tackle this season, and at least pass blocking wise, he has been awful. So Greg Little would step right in as a starter. Tunsil would move over to guard, and that'll make the Dolphins' offensive line and offense as a whole lot better. As Brissett or Tannehill or whoever's going to be the quarterback next year will have a lot more time to throw. Let's look at a more balanced tackle. Maybe not as good, maybe not as high of a ceiling. He is also 1 year younger, and that is Jonah Williams from the University of Alabama. He's 21 years old. He fits the scheme. He can run block as well as pass block. He also is pretty athletic. So overall, he is more of an athlete and a run blocker than Greg Little, but Little is such a phenomenal pass blocker that you can't really go run with either of these guys. Williams is projected mid-first rounder. If the Dolphins have like the 8th pick, Little's off the board, I could very well see them selecting Jonah Williams. Next up, let's go to the 3rd round where we find Auburn's Prince Tega Wanahogo Jr. He is really nice value for the 3rd round and absolutely a player I could see the Dolphins end up picking and someone who could be a day 1 starter. He can once again pass and run block. He may not be the athlete that Jonah Williams is. B pass block finesse, B run block power, and B minus run block. So his scheme is power. He has the power. He's strong. He's a big physical player. And I think he's someone who would benefit the Dolphins' offensive line very nicely wherever he plays, whether that's tackle or moves over inside. Next up, we have Michael Jordan from Ohio State. Not the basketball player Michael Jordan, but this is a different Michael Jordan. Probably not as good as the one who won 6 championships back in the 1990s with the Chicago Bulls. Looking at Jordan, he's a projected late first-round talent. He fits the agile scheme at that left guard position. The Dolphins don't need a left guard as Josh Sinton's very solid, but right guard and center are positions of need, and Jordan could certainly fit in there. B minus lead block, B minus run block, B minus run block finesse. I think he does have a way to go on his pass blocking, but he does have a lot of upside. Another late first offensive lineman we have is Michael Dieter. I hope I said that right. Out of Wisconsin. He is 22 years old, and he is a very good run blocker as well. B plus run block power, B run block, B minus impact block. I think he does need to work on his pass blocking. The Dolphins need run blocking as well, as Kenyon Drake hasn't had the greatest of seasons. So overall, I think if the Dolphins can get a player who can do both pass blocking and run blocking, I think that'd be nice. And Dieter is a solid pass blocker, but more of a run blocker. Now let's look at the defensive side of the football, starting with Nick Bosa, the younger brother of Chargers superstar defensive end Joey Bosa, who was picked 3rd overall in 2016. I could see Bosa, like his brother, going in the top 3. He is a phenomenal pass rusher and reminds me a lot of his older brother Joey. B block shedding, B hit power, and B pursuit. He is 21 years old, I believe, but it says 22. Don't listen to that. He is a run stopper as well, so he can get to the quarterback. He can stop a run. He really can do it all, and probably is the 2nd best player in this draft talent-wise. Next up, we have Rashawn Gary out of Michigan. I really like his versatility. I think he can play inside and outside very effectively. He could play defensive end, which is where he's listed at. He could also go inside to play defensive tackle. He isn't the biggest. Actually, he's pretty darn big. I'm just kidding. 6'7", 307 pounds. He can get to the quarterback, B pursuit, B minus hit power, and B minus power moves. He can also stop the run as well. And I think he does a lot of the little things that you don't really look at. And I think he could be a really good player. Probably going to be a top 5 or top 10 pick. Another versatile defensive end that the Dolphins like is Dexter Lawrence. Like Gary, Lawrence has the versatility to play on the end as well as in the middle at defensive tackle on the defensive line. Of course, Clemson has an excellent defensive line, sort of like the Rams' defensive line in a way, and Dexter Lawrence is basically the Aaron Donald of that. He's probably the most dominant on their team, and that says something because they have some really good defensive linemen. He can stop for run. He can also get to the quarterback, B hit power, B block shedding, and B minus tackle. Him and Gary are very similar. I would say that the Dolphins are probably more likely to pick Lawrence ahead of Gary, but there's not much of a drop-off. Next up, we have Ed Oliver, the most talented player in this draft class, without a question. He is an athletic freak of nature. He can get to the quarterback. He can stop the run. He can do it all. I have a feeling this guy might be the best player in the NFL one day, sort of like Aaron Donald is today. B block shedding, B hit power, B tackle. He is a phenomenal run stopper. He can get to the quarterback, and he is an athlete. He is not a liability when it comes to speed, and he can bench a lot of reps. I expect this guy to be the #1 pick, and if the Dolphins have the option, they will pick him. The last guy we're going to look at is the senior from Clemson, Clelin Ferrell. Ferrell would have been a first-round pick last year, as well as Austin Bryant and Christian Wilkins, but all three of them decided to stay and join Dexter Lawrence on the Clemson defensive line. Probably not as good as the other defensive linemen I named, but Ferrell's still very good. B power moves, B minus hit power, and C plus pursuit. I think he is a little bit raw, but at the same time, he can definitely get to the quarterback. His run stopping could use some work, but he should get a lot of sacks early on. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. The final prospect profile this year will be running backs and receivers. So I'm out. Peace.
Hey, man! Come on!